What's up, guys? Coach Brad here. I'm here with a crash course of kettlebells. These are 10 basic exercises you can do with your kettlebell. So if you're just starting out, these are some of the things you'd like to know about and put together into a workout. Please feel free to ask me if you have any questions that you might have on these. First thing we're going to do is go over 3 basic positions. We'll make it 4 positions. So obviously, if the kettlebell is resting on the floor and you're about to say pick it up, we're just going to call that a floor resting position, or just call it floor for short. If it's off the ground already, but you're going to use that position in midair to get to another position, we're going to call that the hang position. Thirdly, when we bring the kettlebell up to our shoulder, we call it racked position. Now this can be done with 2 kettlebells simultaneously or just the one. Very important though, especially if you get 15 pounds or heavier, make absolutely sure that you get in the habit of having the bell touch your forearm, your bicep, and your chest. There should be 3 points of contact. Usually, if you just remember to bring your fist beneath your chin, you'll be fine because you'll automatically be in that 3-point contact position. Reason for that is, if you've ever done an arm wrestling match with someone and you start to lose and they pull you out like this in this weird position, it feels really weird on your shoulder. It's very stressful for your rotator cuff. You don't want to put yourself in a position where a weight is going to naturally try to pull you out into that position. So we always just angle it in like this, okay? So this is our racked position, and the 4th position and final is our overhead position. Bear in mind, for purposes of instability, that as we move this weight from lower to higher and higher, and finally to overhead, we become more and more top heavy. We also become more and more unstable because of that. Now you can use that to your advantage in different exercises. So let's start reviewing some of what I think would be the top 10 ones for you to know that you can do with a kettlebell. Okay, so the first one is a clean. The clean, you're simply going to move the kettlebell from the floor to your shoulder in one movement. Now the shoulder does like to move in a sort of rotational or like a spiralized type of movement, like a corkscrew. So how I teach it is I like to hold it in the middle of your body, but point your thumb back just while you're learning the move. And as you pull it up, you're going to twist your thumb forward and around so it's pointing at you by the time you finish. I'll try to do that slow. Okay, spiral it up into racked position. That's my clean. And I spiral back down. Spiral up. Now try it a little bit faster. You'll notice that the faster you go, the easier it is to get your elbow and arm into this position. It's almost like the bell is floating for a split second and you buy yourself a little bit of time to maneuver the arm where you want it to be. Going slower is harder. Faster is easier. Okay, so that is our clean. So a floor clean is obviously going to be from the floor to the shoulder. A hang clean is going to be from midair hang position up to the shoulder. I'm not going to go into the minutia of why you would do one versus the other, but let's just say you have that option. Some might feel easier, one might feel easier than another. Okay, so the press is the next natural movement. The overhead press naturally comes from a clean. So we're already here, so all I have to do, press up overhead, and that's my press. Okay, notice that my arm is directly in line with gravity. So if I want to combine the two now, this is going to be your 3rd exercise, the clean and the press. 1 and 2. Bring it back to the shoulder and back down. 1, 2. Clean, press. I'm going to show you from the side. Do you notice how my knees bend and then re-straighten? Okay, by giving myself a little bit of knee bend, I'm able to use my legs, my quads and my glutes mainly, to help boost the weight up so my shoulder doesn't have to do 100% of the lifting. All right, my shoulder workload is now reduced a little bit because my legs are helping with the whole process. Okay, so we covered the clean, we covered the press, we covered the clean and press. Now we're going to try a thruster. A thruster is a squat followed by an overhead press. So we're going to start at the shoulder, sit back like you're sitting on that invisible chair, stand and then press, return to shoulder. Squat, stand, press, reset. Down, up, press, reset. From the side. Okay, that's our one arm thruster. Again, you could do that with two arms simultaneously if you have two different weights. Okay, goblet squat. Okay, this is basically a squat, but we're gonna top load ourselves by holding the weight up high. Now it's in the center of our body, but right about at shoulder height. Now, you can hold the bell a couple ways here. I find this the most comfortable. Depending on the size of the bell though, this may not work for everybody. Also, if you have small hands, this might not work. But I like to go hold it like you're holding a giant goblet of wine and you're gonna get drunk. So goblet squat, we hold here, keep it nice and close to the chest. Don't let it drop out away from you. As soon as this gets away from your body, it's gonna load up your lower back. If you can get low enough that your knees touch your thighs, that's a pretty good depth. I don't see any reason to go lower than that. And if you can't go that low, go to where you can and then work toward that as a future goal. So that's the goblet squat. I'll show you from the side. I'm trying to keep my knees mostly over my ankles, not forward over the toes, as best you can. Okay, suitcase carry. By its very name, the implication that a suitcase is only carried on one arm. Therefore, you would do this with one kettlebell. And this is just a slow walk. You want to focus on something eye level ahead of you. Focus on keeping your hips level. Focus on keeping your shoulders level. You don't want the bell to pull you to one side, nor do you want to overcompensate by leaning to the other side. Okay, you can just walk forward, backward. You can pick a much longer alleyway so that you can work on the endurance of your forearms and your grip holding the kettlebell for a longer period of time. Okay, that is actually a core exercise because you have to use muscles all through the upper legs, the hips, your glutes, your abs, your obliques. You gotta use a lot of different things to stay right, nice and centered there. The farmer carry would be the next, that's just a variation on that. So you would have a bell in each hand and you would slowly carry forward and or backward. For now, we're just gonna focus on forward and backward. So one in each hand. That is a little easier because assuming the weights are the same, neither one is gonna pull you too far in either direction. But it does increase the overall load on your spine and hips and knees. Okay, deadlift. So this is using our legs, and only our legs, to get the bell from the floor to an elevated position, but the arms will stay straight. So you're gonna squat down, pick up the bell, keep it right below you so it's right at your center of gravity. Touch and come up. Touch and come up from the side, all right? It's gonna touch the ground right about where your insteps are. If you drew an imaginary line between them, possibly if you drew a line between your heels, it might touch that line as well. Otherwise, back nice and straight, chest up, shoulders back. Okay, that's your kettlebell deadlift. Ninth exercise, the swing. Swing is what we call a ballistic deadlift. It's a deadlift with an added front to back movement. Before you do this one, I highly recommend making sure that you have a reasonable amount of hamstring flexibility. This is not up and down like the deadlift is. You have to work on something called your hip hinge. The hip hinge is more of a front to back hip movement. Yes, there's a little bit of bending at the hip, so hip flexion, and a little bit of bending at the knees, but nowhere near the amount as when you squat or deadlift. Okay, now this has to be done. I would start with less than 15 pounds initially to get the movement, because it's, once you add speed and you add movement to something, it all automatically becomes higher risk for low back pain, especially this particular exercise. You gotta have a couple things worked out first. But I just wanna show you so you kind of understand what we're talking about. I'm gonna do this at actual speed because I can't do this slow. It just doesn't work. I'm gonna hinge my hips back. You should be feeling a little hamstring stretch here. If you don't, your feet may be too wide apart. Move them a little bit closer. How close? Just about shoulder width, maybe a little bit less. So I'm gonna do 10 reps facing the camera and 10 reps sideways. All right, I like to start with the bell slightly out in front. I'm gonna start by hiking it through my legs, like in football, and then I'm just gonna go right up into my hinge. So, ready? During this, my glutes are squeezing much like you would in a bridge. And that is generating the momentum and the swing force for the bell. I'm not lifting it with my arms, I'm just holding it from going too far away from me. Okay, sideways. Nice flat back. That's your swing. And the last one is the snatch. Remember back to the clean and press when we went floor to shoulder and shoulder to overhead. Now we're going to skip the shoulder entirely and get the weight from the floor to overhead in one move. Okay, there's a little bit of a trick to this. Because the mass of the kettlebell is not so much in the handle, but in this big ball away from the handle. When you do this movement, there's a tendency, and it's a very natural tendency, for the bell to swing around and whack the back of your wrist, which if you're not prepared for it, can be very uncomfortable, as you could imagine. So, to get around that, try to avoid that impact force, we're going to add a little bit of internal rotation, right? Any rotation of a limb toward the middle of the body is considered internal rotation, all right? So I'm going to start pretty much in this position. How am I going to do this? Just trying to think of the way to best coach this one. Well, here, let me just do the move first. It's almost like combining a swing and a clean and press. As if doing 3 moves, but it's got to look like one move. Okay, from the side. That's your snatch. Okay. So I kind of started with my palm facing this way or thumb back. And I add a little bit of, I don't know how to explain this one. feel like I'm just doing a quarter turn inward when I get about halfway up. That's what it feels like. Like the bell is here, it's out in front, but I feel like once it crosses a certain threshold, it's actually going to spin around this way, and the momentum, of the arm and the bell is just going to continue upward and backward. So I'm finishing, it's got to end up on the back of your wrist. Like, it cannot not do that. So you have to be prepared for that and expect that. Let's work on that on a different video with a much lighter weight. Okay, good luck. Let's try those 10 and see how you do.